Yay, we're back in the Hotbox studio. Isn't that great? We've had a bit of a revamp here, and it's very nice to be surrounded by the ones that I love, and to come back to this lovely space after quite a long time. And the reason we've got together today is to speak about Dagga private clubs. But I think before we speak, we need to smoke, because this is the Hotbox Show after all. And this is casual, and this is what it's all about. It's all about us and our use and consumption and trade of cannabis. So welcome, and please don't mind me while I light my spliff.
Yay, it's so nice to be around the table.
Yeah, it is. It's great to be around the table. I've been missing hanging out in the studio with everybody. We're now back, not so much live, definitely unpredictable, and most certainly unscheduled. I think going forward.
And it's so nice to be on the other side of the screen. I'll tell you all watching it.
You're bringing this beautiful aura into the studio with you. I love it. It's awesome.
And Charles is up here from Cape Town, and we just thought we'd take this opportunity to just discuss this latest, can I call it the terrible state of affairs when it comes to the Haze Club case, the fact that it's all sort of fallen apart. And let's, even before we start, I think we need to acknowledge that the reason why the appellants withdrew their appeal in Bloemfontein was personal. You know, it didn't have, we're not pointing fingers at anybody, it was personal. And also to stress that this settlement that they have reached together with the government is most probably going to prevent them from having criminal records. So that, but we don't know for sure, because the settlement is completely confidential. So please don't ask us what were the conditions of the settlement.
We really don't know.
We'll never know.
It's not made public.
No.
Not in this document.
No, it's not made public anywhere. It's between the government, the National Director of Public Prosecutions, and the Haze Club. Okay, so we will never know, so don't ask us. But basically, the news landed in our inboxes yesterday, and we're processing it a little bit. But here at Fields of Green for All, we really do, we immerse ourselves in this whole thing about Dagga private clubs. And each of us has got a kind of a speciality when it comes to that. We all deal with different things. And Charles, I know is that this is a daily, if not hourly, question that you get asked on our National Victim Support Helpline.
What is a Dagga private club? And then a lot of people phone, they want to start shops, and they don't know the difference. Some people have heard of Section 21. There are all these different ways that people are selling cannabis out there, and the one is more confusing than the other. But I know in my heart that a club is the safest way to go about.
Yeah.
Because after all, we do have a privacy judgment. And at Fields of Green for All, we offer guidance to the clubs without telling them that it's legal or that we are making them compliant, you know? So what we do for those people who support us in this quest is we provide a certificate of best practice and a code of conduct that you then sign on to our Dagga Private Clubs project, okay? We don't tell you how to run your business. And my Joe is the one that is really involved with administering the Dagga Private Club project. And it's quite rewarding, isn't it?
It's very rewarding. I do need to spend a little bit more time maybe getting out to the clubs.
There are many of them.
Circumstances have not really allowed me to do that as yet, but we're getting to a better place. So I'm looking forward to coming out to all the clubs. I'm looking forward to maybe shooting little hotbox shows in the clubs with your members. I'm loving collecting all the logos, and all the names are amazing, and seeing how widespread you are throughout the country, and just, it makes me so happy. It really makes me so happy. But now I wanted to ask quickly, is there, or in case for you guys, I like to ask the dumb questions, the difference between a Dagga private club and what the Haze Club was wanting to do, which was a private grow club?
Essentially, no.
Okay.
It was just one more stage in the organization of it. So the Haze Club built themselves as a grow club where they would grow your cannabis for you. So you would, and remember people, this was 4 years ago. So, when they were arrested. So a lot of water has gone under the bridge. But you would then send your seeds to the Haze Club. They then had a grow facility. They would grow it for you. And then when it was ready, they would harvest it, trim it, and send you your cannabis that was being grown, that was labeled under your name. So we haven't really seen anybody else pursue this model, have we, Stefan?
I've seen one or two, but we also have to remember these were probably the clubs that got established long ago, before we've got the Cannabis for Private Purposes Act potentially changing the definition of the seed or removing it completely. So back in the time, they were very strict, and we all had long discussions about the only legal way that cannabis can actually exchange hand was via donation. Because you had the Drugs Act that says cannabis, with this terrible definition, includes the seed, the stalk, any part of the plant. So
5 acres of land around it.
grow clubs did what they needed to do to put onto the paper to have this, I want to say, at least trial, traceability in almost the sense that you can at least say, oh, okay, there's no exchange of ownership of cannabis, and this was part of the state's opposing papers here. But what about then effective possession? Effective possession then remains without the person who's the owner, and all these nitty-gritty things. But there has been a lot of development with for example, when I say we always try to highlight that police directive that says more than one person may have ownership to cannabis. These are essential terms, and we've had the Cannabis for Private Purposes Act, and because it's been gazetted, it's no longer a bill. We're just waiting for the date for this thing to come into effect and remove it from Schedule 2. So I think now clubs have a bit more leeway. And look, it's really caught me off guard as well. And it really takes that, you play the hand you're dealt, it hits a bit differently. But there is, when you try to look at the silver lining, so many clubs have been arrested yet not prosecuted. They get a null and prosecute, and I know it's frustrating. But if the state could actually, beyond a reasonable doubt, prove that these grow clubs were essentially dealing, why would they enter into any type of settlement?
That's a good point.
The prosecuting, when they build a defense, they only prosecute you if they feel they've got enough evidence to prove beyond a reasonable doubt that you're guilty of an offense. So, if, in my opinion, maybe they didn't have such a strong case as they perceived. Because why even consider settling when you're the National Prosecuting Authority and you allegedly have this monumentous evidence compiled against us? It's something
that's not the same aggressive approach the state had in the trial of the plant.
No, I don't think so, because now that it's out of the Drugs Act, there's not much of a leg to stand on. But there was a really important point that the law, although the president signed it in May, the day before the election, it hasn't been promulgated yet, because it can only go into force once there's the regulation. And I don't know why I've got this idea in my head, but I think that maybe they're going to publish regulations out for public comment, because that's the law, before the end of the year. But you know that if you follow us at Fields of Green for All and 420 Attorney and all of the people who give you the correct information, the minute that it lands in our inbox, we'll let everybody know about it, because those regulations are going to be something to behold. They really are. But just carrying on going around the table and everybody's roles in our Dagga Private Club project. So Amy is our harm reduction specialist. She's our youth and diversity director. And Amy, you've been participated in some training, some bud tender training around harm reduction. And that's another so important function of a Dagga Private Clubs, is you need to be a harm reduction establishment. You need to approach a harm reduction issue from all different angles. It's not as easy as, I sell dank, is it?
No, not at all. And I think there's many ways. There's cannabis as a harm reduction tool, which would obviously be cannabis that's helping us all for many various different issues that we have without providing any harm. But then there's things like DACA private clubs, which are harm reduction in themselves. So harm reduction in a club could look like obviously having access control, not just to stop under 18s coming in, but to protect you from the police just walking in as well. It would be things like making sure your products are tested, that they are reliable, you know where they come from. It's making sure that you've got member care, making sure you're looking after your members, kind of seeing if they're in a bad space, maybe consuming a lot more cannabis than they would normally do, those kinds of things. So it's just taking ownership and being responsible in every way that we possibly can. There's many different avenues it can look like. And there's also like broader harm reduction, which is a whole nother story. But in terms of social clubs, like we have responsibility to keep it as safe as we can and self-regulate as far as we can right now.
Yeah, and I think it's important to highlight there's always going to be an inherent risk when dealing or when facilitating any type of cannabis. So in the end of the day, all you can do is risk management. The more effort you put in, the more, I know it's a lot of administration and a lot of people try to take the shortcuts, and in all honesty, all you're doing is increasing your risk.
Risk management, I like that.
Yes.
That's it. If you're keeping your members away from the risk of having to go to potentially harmful areas or people
Yes.
to get something that's really one of the safest parts on the face of the planet. Come on.
Exactly.
But I also think it's important to make sure your members are like as knowledgeable about the current state of affairs as possible as well. That's a huge part of harm reduction.
Yeah, knowledge is power.
Not saying we've got a legal model. There is no legal model. And while we're on the topic of models, the model is the social club.
Yeah.
That is the model. How you run your business is not a model. So it's also a very big thing that we need to explain to people and distinguish that this model, that model, there's so many different ways you can run a business, but none of them are legal.
Pharmacy.
And please make sure your members know that.
We don't have dispensaries in South Africa, right?
No, the dispensary the word comes from California. A dispensary usually contains a licensed pharmacist behind the counter, not a bud tender, a licensed pharmacist. And I think I could probably count on my one hand the amount of pharmacists in South Africa are actually qualified to dispense cannabis, Maybe there's less than 10. I don't know. If you're a licensed pharmacist, get hold of us in the comments
Please let us know.
and let us know. But that is what a dispensary is, a dispensed medicine. And remember what Jules always used to say, I'm not sick, don't want to make socks, just want to get high. And so you can't be taking some nefarious Section 21, and we heard this the other day, Section 21 permit that you supposedly got with SAPRA and you supposedly whatever, and then you dispensing your medicine here, no licensed pharmacist inside, and then in the back you've got a consumption lounge. And you're calling yourself a DACA private club dispensary. I mean, what is
No, I've never seen a pharmacy with a bar inside.
Yeah.
Or a space to eat your
Exactly. A space to go and take your medication. No, I don't think so. So there's a lot of muddying the waters. And when I was speaking to Paul Michael the other day, he said to me, but you know what, Mert? You have to get the message across of what a DACA private club is. And just don't believe everything that you say, because this word compliance, I cannot tell you how it gets under our skin. We do not have any regulations for cannabis in South Africa with which to comply.
Yep, it's very important.
We have to have those regulations. We know now that hemp is 100% legal. We know that. It was in the Act. And we know that the Department of Agriculture is now in charge of everything to do with cultivation and hemp and all of that. We know that the Department of Trade and Industry will be taking up the bulk of managing the regulations when it comes to cannabis. Because don't forget that the president said 3 times, nearly 4 times, whatever, about the economic potential of cannabis. Okay, so trade and industry, we know that Minister Parks Tau is supposedly very, very pro-cannabis. So I think that that's in the right place. And we know that the regulations are going to be published by the Department of Justice, because that is where the legislature sits. So we also need all of the other 18 government departments who are going to be affected by this law to somehow participate. So let's see with the public comments. Okay?
Yeah.
Let's see. We don't know, but we're here to answer your questions.
Yeah.
And please just don't believe anybody when they say that we'll make you compliant, we'll make you legal. Yes, no, it's absolutely fine. Your pot shop is fine with your big weed leaf outside and your advertising blackboard at the door. And your nefarious youngster you've left there selling your weed and your imported synthetic Delta H pens. That's not how you operate with integrity.
Yeah.
Really. So it's been very, very nice to be around this. And I ended that with a little bit of a rant. But now that you can see that our studio is up and running again, we hope to be with you again soon.
And so one more thing to add.
One more thing.
One more thing.
Please.
So we're not saying we don't support clubs and everyone trading in their cannabis and that stuff, but what we're saying is that there is no laws for it or regulations yet, but we do have best business practices. So following the laws that we do have, so making sure you're paying your taxes, making sure your health and safety is up to scratch, making sure your staff are well looked after. We can start there.
Yeah.
Making sure there's
Operating
access
with
control.
ethics, really.
Yeah.
Basically.
That's it.
Only break one law at a time.
Yeah.
Thanks, Amy. Bye, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye.
Unleash the plant for everybody. Not hemp, not medicine, dacha, all of it.